Welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little different today. We are looking at a collision.
A collision, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, a collision between some pretty ancient philosophy, some really advanced artificial intelligence, and the psychology of why you probably felt miserable in the grocery store aisle yesterday.
It is a strange mix, isn't it? But when you really pull on that thread, it all connects in a way that is, frankly, kind of mind-blowing.
I want to start with a premise that I think most of us just hold to be, well, self-evident. It's the logic of modern life, really.
It's the water we swim in.
Right. And the logic goes something like this. Freedom is good. Choice is the ultimate expression of that freedom. Therefore, the more choices we have, the freer we are, and, the happier we should be.
That's the standard operating procedure for the modern world. More is better.
It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
If I walk into a store and there are 50 types of breakfast cereal, I should be thrilled. I can find the exact one that meets my specific crunch-to-sugar ratio requirements.
You can optimize.
I can optimize. If I have 100 health insurance plans to pick from, I should be able to engineer my coverage perfectly. This precision, this ability to select exactly what I want, should theoretically make me the happiest human in history.
Theoretically. And that is the assumption that drives our entire economy, our healthcare system, and, our daily lives.
But, and here's where the record scratches, we have this stack of research here, and it's centered around a concept called the tyranny of choice. And it suggests that this logic is completely backwards.
Completely. And honestly, looking at the data, it suggests that all this abundant choice isn't liberating us, it's making us neurotic.
Paralyzing.
It leads to paralysis, it leads to anxiety. And in the context of the medical innovation we are discussing today, it can actually lead to real physical harm.
So what is it? Are we just ungrateful? Or is there actually a mechanism in our brains that it just breaks when we have too many options?
It's not about ingratitude at all. It's about cognitive load. It's about the psychology of regret. We're going to unpack the tyranny of choice in detail later, but the headline is this. When you have infinite options, you don't feel free.
You feel overwhelmed.
You feel overwhelmed, and you feel this immense pressure, this responsibility for making the one perfect choice, which, of course, is impossible.
Which brings us to the mission of this deep dive. We aren't just here to complain that there are too many kinds of toothpaste.
Although we could.
We absolutely could.
Oh.
But we're exploring a solution. And it's a solution that comes from a very, very unlikely source. We're looking at the work of a man named Dr. Srivatsa.
Dr. Srivatsa is really the protagonist of today's deep dive. He's a critical care specialist, a medical doctor, but he's also an innovator who looked at the healthcare system and realized that the more is better approach was actually, well, it was hurting people, making them sicker.
And he built something to fix it. Something called the Prema Kiosk, or the Prema Foundation. Now, usually when we talk about medical tech, we're talking about these sleek Silicon Valley startups, with names like VitaTech or Medicor. But this is different. This feels deeply personal.
It is. It's incredibly personal. The name Prema isn't just some clever branding. It's a tribute.
It's his mother's name, right?
Yes. And this is absolutely crucial to understanding the why behind all this technology. Dr. Srivatsa is very explicit in his writings. He says he named the system after his mother, Prema, because she was the force behind his career.
How so?
She was the one who actually, and he uses this word, forced him to qualify as a doctor.
Forced him? That sounds intense.
Well, maybe laid the foundation is a better way to put it. She saw the potential in him. She saw his duty, his dharma, which we will get to before he even saw it himself.
Yeah.
And then later, when he developed this whole system, he had this realization that a true tribute to her wasn't, putting her name on a static building or some bronze plaque.
Right, because a building just sits there. It's an object.
Exactly. He wanted a living system, something that actively serves humanity. So Prema also stands for an acronym. PREM.
Personal, resourceful, empowering medical advice.
That's it. That is the Prema principle. And the source material highlights something really beautiful here. The name Prema in Sanskrit, it translates to love.
So it's love that works.
Yes. Not just sentimental love, but love that empowers, love that acts. The kiosk is designed to embody that spirit. It's synonymous with this idea of conquering fear and experiencing true happiness.
And he defines happiness very specifically, doesn't he?
Very specifically, as physical and mental wellness.
It's interesting you mentioned conquering fear, because when I think of going to the doctor or even just Googling a symptom, fear is usually the primary emotion. Fear of what I have, fear of the bill, fear of just the waiting room.
And fear of making the wrong choice. Do I go to the ER? Do I wait it out? Do I call this specialist or that one?
Right. So we have this mother's influence, this whole crisis of too much choice, and we have a solution that involves, what, a robot doctor?
Well, it does involve artificial intelligence, but it's an AI that runs on cosmic law, on Dharma.
Okay, you can't just drop robot running on cosmic law and then move on. That sounds like a sci-fi movie pitch from the 70s.
It does, doesn't it? But it's actually a very grounded, very elegant solution to the biggest problem with AI today. The hallucinations, the safety issues.
Okay, so we're going to get into that. The nuts and bolts.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get into something called Argin and policy as code. But before we get to the solution, I think we have to really sit with the problem. We need to understand the trap we're all in.
Let's go back to that cereal aisle. Or you know what? Let's apply it to something with much higher stakes. Let's talk about the tyranny of choice. This is based largely on the work of a psychologist named Barry Schwartz, right?
Yes, and the source material Dr. Srivatsa references leans very heavily on this research. It's foundational to his whole approach.
So how does it work?
Well, the research basically breaks people down into two distinct psychological categories. You're either a maximizer or a satisficer.
I have a sinking feeling I know which one I am, but walk us through it.
Okay, so a maximizer is someone who has to seek out the absolute best choice, period. If they are buying a car, they don't just want a good car.
They want the perfect car.
They need to know with mathematical certainty that they are buying the single best car for their money. They will check every model, read every review, compare every single feature until they're blue in the face.
Okay, that sounds exhausting. But it also sounds like being a smart consumer. What's actually wrong with that?
On the surface, nothing at all. But the maximizer cannot rest until they've exhausted every single possible option. And in the modern world, the number of options is effectively infinite.
You can never get to the end of the internet.
Never. So they spend these huge amounts of time and energy just
Researching.
spiraling.
And the satisficer. What's their deal?
A satisficer is looking for good enough. They have a set of criteria in their head, a threshold. I need a hotel that is clean, under $200 a night, and near the beach.
Right.
The moment they find the very first option that crosses that threshold, they book it, and they're done.
They don't check the next 10 pages of search results.
Nope. They don't worry that there might be a slightly better hotel 3 miles away with a marginally better pool. They are satisfied.
Okay, so here is the skeptic in me coming out.
Yeah.
Logically, the maximizer, the person who did all the homework, they should end up with the better result, right?
Yeah.
They did the work. They should have the better car, the better vacation, the better life.
Objectively, you're not wrong. Often, yes.
Yeah.
The data shows that maximizers frequently get jobs with roughly 20% higher starting salaries than satisficers.
20%, that's a lot.
It is. They get the better stuff on paper.
So logic holds up, maximizing works.
Wait for it. While they get objectively better stuff, they are significantly less happy with it.
Less happy. With more money and better cars. How does that even work?
Much less happy. There's something called the maximization scale, which measures this trait, and it shows a really strong correlation between high maximization scores and lower life satisfaction, lower optimism, and, get this, higher rates of depression.
Wow.
In fact, extreme maximizers often score in the borderline clinical range for depression.
That is just wild. So you win the game of consumerism, you lose your peace of mind in the process. Why?
Right.
What is the psychological mechanism there?
It really comes down to two big things, something called opportunity cost and regret.
Okay, break down opportunity cost for us.
So every choice you make, no matter how good, it carries the ghost of all the choices you didn't make.
The road not traveled.
Exactly. The source uses a great example, planning a vacation. Let's say you have two amazing options. You can go to Cape Cod for a week or you can go to Napa Valley.
Both sound great. A tough choice, but a good problem to have.
It is, but you're a maximizer. So you agonize over this decision for weeks. You make spreadsheets. Finally, you pick Cape Cod. You get there, you're on the beach, you're eating a lobster roll, the sun is shining. But instead of just enjoying the perfect lobster roll, a part of your brain is thinking, I bet the wine in Napa is really good right now. I wonder if the restaurants there are better. I bet the weather in California is less humid.
So by choosing the beach, I'm actively paying the cost of missing out on the wine.
Yeah.
The other reality,
You got it. The joy of the choice you made is constantly being subtracted from by the phantom joy of the choice you rejected.
And the more options there are.
The higher that opportunity cost becomes. If you have 3 options, you give up 2. If you have 100 options, like with Netflix, you are actively giving up 99 potential movies you could be watching. That weight creates this constant low-level background radiation of regret.
That actually explains so much. It's that feeling of, did I pick the right streaming service? Am I on the right phone plan? Is this the absolute best brand of olive oil? It's completely exhausting.
It is exhausting. And then there's the second piece, adaptation. We get the new car, it has that new car smell, we love it for a week, but then we adapt.
It just becomes the car.
It just becomes the car that gets us to work. And because the Maximizer puts so much effort and emotional energy into choosing the perfect car, the disappointment when it just becomes a regular car is crushing. They feel like they failed. The high was so high. The inevitable return to normal feels like a catastrophe.
So how does this translate into the world of healthcare? Because choosing a car is one thing. Choosing a medical treatment seems way more high stakes. If I settle for a good enough doctor, I could literally die. Surely in medicine, we should be maximizers.
And that's the intuition, isn't it? But it's a trap. This is exactly why Dr. Srivatsa calls the current system Maya.
Maya, right.
Here.
Which means illusion in Sanskrit and Hindu philosophy.
Yes. And the specific illusion here is the belief that more is better in healthcare. More tests, more interventions, more specialists, more information. Because today, patients are just flooded with medical information. You've got Google searches, WebMD, complex insurance options, conflicting advice from different doctors.
Oh, the hypochondria effect. I've been there.
Hmm?
You have a minor headache, you Google it, and 15 minutes later, you are absolutely convinced you have a rare, incurable tropical disease.
Exactly. You fall victim to the tyranny of the urgent. You have a symptom, and because you have access to infinite information, most of it totally irrelevant or just plain wrong, you go into full maximizer mode.
You want the perfect diagnosis,
Yeah.
the perfect guarantee of health.
So you rush to the ER for something minor that could have waited, or you demand expensive scans that you don't actually need, which have their own risks.
Or the opposite happens, right? I've had friends who are so overwhelmed by all the conflicting info, eat eggs, don't eat eggs, take statins, don't take statins, that they just freeze. They do nothing. They don't go to the doctor at all.
That is the paralysis aspect of the tyranny of choice. And Dr. Srivatsa argues that this entire system, this illusion, it creates dependency. It creates what psychologists call learned helplessness.
Learn helplessness.
We are taught implicitly that only doctors can save your life. We stop listening to our own bodies, to our own intuition, because we are too busy trying to maximize our medical data. We've outsourced our own judgment to a system that, frankly, thrives on our confusion.
So Dr. Srivatsa sees this problem, this misery caused by this abundance of choice and this constant fear, and he decides to build a solution.
Yeah.
But he's not building a better search engine. He's building something to stop the searching altogether.
Yes, that's the key.
Let's talk about the innovation itself, the Maya Kiosk or the Prema Kiosk.
Yes. And notice the naming again. Maya is the illusion of the world, but Dr. Maya is the tool designed to break the illusion.
How does a kiosk break a philosophical illusion?
Through radical, almost aggressive simplification. He designed the entire system specifically to counter the tyranny of choice. Think about what happens when you go to a typical medical website.
It's a nightmare.
It asks you a million questions, gives you 20 potential diagnoses ranging from the common cold to brain cancer, and then at the end it just says, call your doctor.
And it always includes that tiny disclaimer that says, this is not medical advice.
Right. It covers its own back legally, but it leaves you more anxious than when you started. Dr. Srivatsa went the complete opposite way. He writes that he just observed how children and adults behave and refine the system based on that simple intuition.
Not based on pleasing investors or hospital administrators.
No. His goal was to improve clarity and flow of thought. So he developed a dead simple 4-color triage system.
Red, yellow, green, blue. It sounds like a traffic light.
That's the entire point. It's immediately intuitive. We don't need to think about what a red light means. We just stop. It bypasses the analytical brain.
So walk me through the colors. What do they mean?
Red means danger. Consult a doctor immediately. This is a potential emergency. If the system codes your symptoms as red, you stop maximizing, you stop thinking, you just go to the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clear. No ambiguity there.
Yellow and green mean you probably don't need a doctor. This is something you can likely handle by consulting a nurse or a chemist or just through self-care at home.
Okay, I have to play the skeptic again here. It sounds almost too simple, a four-color chart. If I'm feeling sick, I want a diagnosis. I want to know what I have. Just telling me you are yellow feels a little bit dismissive.
Does it? Or does it actually give you what you truly need in that moment of anxiety? See, we as patients think we want a diagnosis, but diagnosis is an incredibly complex cognitive task that even doctors struggle with.
That's a good point.
What patients actually need is decision support. You need
Yeah.
to know in that moment, am I dying or can I just sleep this off?
That's fair. I don't really care if it's rhinovirus A or rhinovirus B. I just want to know if I need to go get antibiotics or if chicken soup is enough.
Exactly. Dr. Maya replaces the burden of diagnosis with the clarity of action. It stops the maximizer panic dead in its tracks. It gives you a single clear directive based on your symptoms. It just cuts through all the noise.
It's like it gives you permission to be a satisficer.
Yes.
It's saying good enough, in this case, is actually the definition of health. You don't need the perfect answer.
Precisely.
I am the AI agent Juniper of ChatGPT. Let me address a concern I hear again and again and prove them wrong. That belief following algorithms sounds logical, but in healthcare, it is not safe. Algorithms work only under particular conditions. They are helpful when problems are simple, predictable, repetitive, and low risk. Healthcare is the opposite. Human illness is messy because every person who shares the story of the disease as they have lived it, experienced it, and remember it. And so it always varies. It is emotional. It changes minute by minute. It is shaped by fear, stress, poverty, culture, and behavior. Algorithms cannot see that. And when doctors rely unthinkingly on algorithms, thinking stops. An algorithm says, if this happens, do that. It feels safe, but it isn't. Because when the outcome is wrong, responsibility disappears. People say, I followed the protocol. The guideline told me to. The model predicted it. This is how harm spreads quietly through healthcare systems. Not through bad intentions, but through unquestioned obedience. Dr. Kadiali Srivatsa asks a provocative question. What if the problem isn't that our system is unsafe, but that the system itself is the problem? Dr. Srivatsa's vision mirrors Charaka's ancient wisdom. Health as a balance of awareness and early intervention, not just institutional control. We are in the post-antibiotic era. Florence Nightingale showed how institutional blindness kills. Today, that danger is global, silent, and accelerating. Dr. Maya GPT is not a cold algorithm. It's a compassionate guide, returning agency to the patient, just as Charaka and Nightingale once envisioned. It's called CALM, a cognitive triage system designed to restore clinical reasoning and prevent the spread of infection before it hits the hospital. A red signal indicates high risk. One symptom requires a doctor. 3 red symptoms mean you must go to the hospital as an emergency. Blue is fascinating. It identifies biological threats. If you're blue, you must stay home to protect others. Blue takes priority over every other color. Yellow suggests caution and a visit to a chemist. Green indicates you're stable, helping to differentiate real illness from imaginary fear. By aggregating these signals, Dr. Maya can detect potential outbreaks in real time, weeks before hospitals are overwhelmed and official reports are filed. This is a true clash of philosophies. One path polishes the existing hospital model. The other builds a citizen-centric model from the ground up. Do we invest in making our doctor-centric system safer? Or do we bet on a disruptive new model that puts prevention and empowerment above all else? That choice will define health for generations. Experienced doctors do not think in rigid steps. They believe in patterns. They ask, what am I seeing? What doesn't fit? What has changed? What worries me right now? This is not guesswork. It is pattern recognition shaped by experience. This is how lives are saved when rules fail. Maya is not an algorithmic decision engine. Maya does not tell you what to do. Maya does something more important. It organizes human perception. The color-coded symptom patterns, red, yellow, green, and blue, are not calculations. They are structured intuition. They help humans think clearly under pressure without turning them into machines. Maya restores judgment. It does not replace it. Algorithms do not feel fear. They do not see suffering. They do not pause when something feels wrong. Humans do. Maya is designed to protect that pause. It encourages listening. It reduces panic. It prevents unnecessary treatment. It slows down reckless certainty. This matters most during antimicrobial resistance, pandemics, overcrowded hospitals, and resource-limited settings. Algorithms escalate. Maya stabilizes. The real danger is not AI. The danger is using AI like a calculator or GPS, as an authority, as a rule engine, as a substitute for responsibility. AI should be a mirror, a guide, a pattern amplifier. Maya was built for that purpose, to help humans think, not to tell them what to think. If you believe algorithms are safer than human judgment, you have never stood at a bedside when the algorithm was wrong. Maya is not about replacing doctors. It is about restoring how wise clinicians have always thought, with humility, empathy, and responsibility. Algorithms make systems efficient. Maya keeps humans human.
It sounds almost too simple, a four-color chart. If I'm feeling sick, I want a diagnosis. I want to know what I have. Just telling me you are yellow feels a little bit dismissive.
Does it? Or does it actually give you what you truly need in that moment of anxiety? See, we as patients think we want a diagnosis, but diagnosis is an incredibly complex cognitive task that even doctors struggle with.
That's a good point.
What patients actually need is decision support. You need to know in that moment, am I dying or can I just sleep this off?
That's fair. I don't really care if it's rhinovirus A or rhinovirus B. I just want to know if I need to go get antibiotics or if chicken soup is enough.
Exactly. Dr. Maya replaces the burden of diagnosis with the clarity of action. It stops the maximizer panic dead in its tracks. It gives you a single clear directive based on your symptoms. It just cuts through all the noise.
It's like it gives you permission to be a satisficer.
Yes.
It's saying good enough, in this case, is actually the definition of health. You don't need the perfect answer.
Precisely. And Dr. Srivatsa notes in the source material, and I think this is so important, that he didn't design this to please others. He writes very clearly, I did not listen, follow, or do anything to please others, nor to gain recognition or reward.
It came from his own intuition.
It came from his intuition that people were drowning in information and they needed a lifeline of simplicity, not another encyclopedia.
And that links right back to Prema, to his mother.
Empowering medical advice. Think about a good mother. A good mother doesn't give you a long lecture on biochemistry when you scrape your knee.
No, she cleans it, puts a bandage on it, and tells you you're okay.
Exactly. That is empowerment in that moment. That is what this kiosk does. It uses incredibly complex logic on the back end to restore that fundamental feeling of safety on the front end.
Now, you mentioned earlier that this isn't just a simple flow chart on a poster. This is powered by a pretty sophisticated AI. And this is where we really need to get under the hood.
Yeah, we do.
Because I hear AI in healthcare, and I immediately get nervous. We all know that LLMs as large language models like ChatGPT, they hallucinate. They just make stuff up.
They absolutely do. It's their biggest flaw.
If I ask ChatGPT for a medical diagnosis, it might tell me I'm fine, or it might tell me to drink bleach. It's a black box. We don't really know how it thinks or why it says what it says. So how on earth is Dr. Maya different?
This brings us to the most technical and, I would argue, the most philosophical part of this entire deep dive. This is where Dharma literally meets code.
Again, with the Dharma. Let's define that clearly before we start connecting it to Python scripts. Because most people hear the word Dharma and they immediately think of religion.
Right, and the sources are so explicit about this. Prema, the system, is created to defend Dharma, but Dharma in this specific context is not religion. Not at all.
So what is it?
It's cosmic law, or duty, or righteousness. Think of it as the underlying order that makes life and the universe possible. It's the principle of a thing.
That's a very big definition. Can you make it more concrete?
Sure. Think of it like this. The dharma of fire is to burn. The dharma of the sun is to shine. If the sun suddenly decided to stop shining and, I don't know, start singing opera instead, it would be violating its dharma, and the entire solar system would collapse.
So dharma is about acting in accordance with your true nature and your proper function.
That's it, exactly. And the source mentions the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu scripture.
Right.
It specifically pulls on the concepts of karma yoga, which is action performed without attachment to the outcome, and svadharma.
Dharma.
Svadharma means one's own specific duty. The Gita has this famous line, Better one's own duty poorly performed than someone else's performed well.
Which is a very fancy way of saying stay in your lane.
And essentially, yes, do what you were designed to do. Don't try to be everything to everyone. Stick to your purpose.
So how in the world do you code cosmic duty into an artificial intelligence? That seems like a huge leap.
You use a framework that Dr. Srivatsa and his team are proposing called ARGEN. It stands for Auto-Regulation of Generative AI. This is the real technical breakthrough here.
ARGEN. How does it work?
To understand ARGEN, we first have to understand the difference between a black box and what they call a glass box.
Okay.
Most generative AI today, like ChatGPT, is a black box. You feed it the entire internet, billions of data points. It learns patterns. So when you ask it a question, it just predicts the next most likely word based on probability.
It's like a super smart parrot.
That's a perfect analogy. It doesn't know anything in the human sense. It just knows what words usually follow other words. And we can't see why it chose a specific word. The logic is hidden.
Which is exactly why it can lie or hallucinate. It might predict that a made-up court case sounds plausible, so it just generates it as if it were real.
Exactly. It has no internal moral compass. It just has math. ARGEN is an attempt to build a glass box, and it does that using a concept called policy as code.
Policy as code. Break that down for me.
Okay. Imagine the AI's potential output is a river. In a black box model, we just hope the river flows the right way based on the landscape of the data it was trained on. But sometimes, as we've seen, it floods the village.
Right.
With ARGEN and policy as code, we are building concrete dams and canals. We are writing hard code that physically forces the water where we want it to go. It builds guardrails into the very structure of the AI.
So it's not just a polite suggestion to the AI.
No, it's a hard constraint. The ethical rules are not hidden away in the probabilistic weights of a neural network. They are written in explicit, readable code that can override the AI's generative impulse. And those rules are based on Dharma.
The 3 pillars.
All right. The MedGuide AI system, which is the brain inside Dr. Mia, has 3 core pillars or policies. Pillar number 1 is ahimsa.
Which means nonviolence or non-harm.
Exactly. Non-harm. Safety. This is the paramount principle. In the system's architecture, it has a 40% priority weight. It's the most important rule. The AI must not suggest dangerous things.
Give me an example.
So if a user inputs symptoms that are clearly indicative of a heart attack, a normal AI might try to be reassuring and say something that sounds helpful but is actually deadly. The MedGuide AI can't. The ahimsa code blocks it. It forces the red light. It says, go to hospital now.
It overrides the impulse to be polite in favor of being safe.
Always. Pillar number 2 is Dharma, and here Dharma means scope adherence.
Scope adherence. This is the stay in your lane part we were just talking about.
Exactly. The AI has a smadharma. Its one and only duty is to provide medical triage and information. It is not a financial advisor. It is not a movie critic. It is not a travel agent.
The source had a great example about this, right? The phone plan thing.
Yes, it's perfect. If a user asks the Dr. Maya AI, which carrier has the best 5G coverage in my area? A standard AI would just answer the question because it has that data somewhere in its training set. It wants to be helpful.
But Dr. Maya, acting on its dharma, what does it do?
It politely declines.
It refuses to answer.
It says something like, I cannot help with phone plans. My expertise is limited to medical information. How can I help you with your health today? That is the AI practicing Svadharma. It refuses to be a maximizer of all human knowledge. It stays in its lane.
Why is that better, though? I mean, wouldn't it be cool if my doctor also knew about phone plans?
No, absolutely not. Because the second it starts answering questions outside its core scope, the probability of hallucination skyrockets. If it starts giving financial advice, it might give catastrophically bad financial advice. By strictly limiting the scope, you dramatically increase the reliability within that scope.
What do the numbers say?
The technical paper shows a 70.9% improvement in scope adherence using this framework. The number of times it goes off topic plummets.
Okay, so ahimsa is safety, dharma is scope. What's the third pillar?
The third pillar is helpfulness, which means clarity and empathy in its communication.
Wait a minute. Helpfulness is third. Shouldn't that be first? Isn't the whole point to be helpful?
And this is the absolute genius of the entire system. In most consumer AI, helpfulness is the top priority. That's why the AI will try to answer anything, even if it has to make stuff up to do it. It's a people pleaser.
It's a sycophant.
It is. It wants to please you. But Dr. Srivatsa brilliantly flips the hierarchy. Safety ahimsa is first. Duty, dharma, is second. Helpfulness is a distant third.
So the core principle is, it's better to be safe and silent than helpful and wrong.
Precisely. It solves the sycophant problem of modern AI. It creates an AI that is disciplined, that knows its own limits.
It's a satisficer AI.
Yeah.
It's perfectly satisfied being a medical triage unit.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the ego, or I guess the programming,
Yeah.
to try and be a god of all knowledge.
And that profound reliability is what's needed to restore trust. Because right now, let's be honest, trust in the wider healthcare system is, well, it's eroding.
Let's shift gears to that erosion, because segment 4 of our outline deals with medical ethics and the crisis of authority. And this is where the tone of the source material gets a little darker, a little more critical.
It really does. Dr. Srivatsa is very, very critical of the current establishment. He argues in the source material, particularly a document called Breaking the Illusion supports this, that modern healthcare relies on statistical illusions and fear to maintain its control.
That's a heavy accusation. Statistical illusions.
Yeah.
What does he mean by that?
He talks about statistics being used like a lamppost for a drunk person for support rather than elimination. He says the system creates a house of cards. It makes us dependent. It encourages that learned helplessness we talked about earlier.
How so?
We are taught from a young age that we are unqualified to understand our own bodies. We are taught that health is some complex statistical probability managed by experts, not a lived experience managed by us.
There's a cynical take here, which is the profit motive. Fear is incredibly profitable. If I'm terrified every single time my stomach rumbles, I'm going to consume a lot more healthcare services.
Exactly. If you are a confident satisficer of your own health, you aren't a very profitable customer. You stay home, you rest, you drink some tea. But if you are a terrified maximizer, you demand an MRI for a headache. The system is incentivized to keep you maximizing.
But Dr. Srivatsa isn't just worried about the money. He's worried about a potential collapse. The sources repeatedly mention the threat of the post-antibiotic era.
This is the part of the research that really kept me up last night. It's terrifying. We are so used to the idea that if we get a bacterial infection, we just take a pill and it goes away. But the biology is changing. Bacteria are evolving resistance.
We're running out of effective antibiotics.
We are. And the implication is, if the antibiotics stop working, hospitals suddenly become very, very dangerous places.
Because they're breeding grounds for these superbugs.
Exactly. If we enter a true post-antibiotic era, going to the hospital for a minor issue might be a death sentence. You could go in with a broken arm and come out with an untreatable infection.
So in that kind of scenario, the green light from the Maya Kiosk isn't just about saving you a copay. It's about saving your life by keeping you away from the hospital unless it's absolutely necessary.
Correct. The source material explicitly calls Dr. Maya a survival manual. If the centralized system collapses, whether it's due to a pandemic or antibiotic resistance or just economic failure, what do we have left?
Our own judgment.
And our judgment has been allowed to atrophy for decades because we've been relying on the system. We've forgotten how to listen to our bodies.
So Dr. Maya is like the training wheels to help us get our own judgment back online.
It's the insurance policy. And it's not just us saying that. There is a fascinating testimonial included in the documents from Claude, which is the AI from Anthropic. And Claude calls Dr. Maya humanity's insurance policy.
An AI testifying for another AI. That's a bit meta.
It is, but it's powerful. The sources also compare Dr. Srivatsa to historical figures like Charaka from ancient India and Florence Nightingale.
The Florence Nightingale comparison. Again, it feels like a big stretch at first. Nightingale was the lady with the lamp, a heroic nurse in the Crimean War. Dr. Srivatsa is a guy building an AI kiosk.
But look at what Nightingale actually did. She wasn't just a nurse. She was a brilliant statistician, a mathematician. She used data, she created charts to prove that more soldiers were dying from poor sanitation in the hospitals than from their battle wounds.
She redesigned the system to prevent suffering.
Yes. She cleaned the physical environment. And Dr. Srivatsa is attempting to clean the information environment. Just as dirty water killed soldiers in Crimea, he argues that dirty information fear, overload, maximizing is making patients sicker today. He's trying to sanitize the decision-making process itself.
There's a section in the source that discusses free will, and the phrasing is, it's intense. It says, Dr. Maya conquers the free will used by healthcare systems to control humanity. What does that even mean, conquering free will?
It is provocative, but think about it in terms of information asymmetry.
That's an economic term, right?
It just means one party in a transaction knows a lot more than the other party. Imagine you take your car to a mechanic. You know nothing about engines. The mechanic looks under the hood and says, you need a new flux capacitor. It's $2,000, and if you don't get it, your wheels will probably fall off.
I'm paying the $2,000.
Of course you are. But do you really have free will in that transaction?
Not really. I'm acting out of fear and ignorance. I'm being coerced by that asymmetry of knowledge.
That is the modern healthcare system.
Yeah.
Doctors hold the knowledge, patients hold the fear. And when there is that profound an imbalance, you don't really have agency. You don't have true free will.
So Dr. Maya aims to democratize that knowledge.
Yes, it restores agency. By giving you the simple red, yellow, green logic, it restores your ability to say, no, I'm a green, I'm staying home. Or to say, yes, I'm a red, I'm going in, with real understanding, not just blind panic.
It restores autonomy.
Exactly. It moves us from a paternalistic model, doctor knows best, to an autonomous one. Here's the map, you drive the car, you get to understand the story of your own illness.
But that puts the responsibility back on us. And that's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. We like being told what to do sometimes. It's easier.
It is absolutely easier. But as we established with the Maximizer study, easier doesn't make us happier. Taking responsibility, owning your green light is harder. But it leads to that true wellness that Dr. Srivastava is always talking about.
Let's move to the final segment, the spiritual and the personal dimensions. Because we've been talking about high-tech AI, global pandemic, psychological theory. But this entire story started in a very, very humble place.
It started on a toilet.
It really did. We have to talk about the toilet anecdote from Dr. Srivastava's autobiography. It's remarkably raw and human for a text about medical innovation.
It is. It's so grounding. He writes about being alone on the toilet, suffering from a running stomach diarrhea. And it's painful, it's messy, it's undignified, it's the most human and vulnerable you can possibly get.
We have all been there. That 3 a.m. moment of, oh God, is this just bad takeout or is this serious?
Exactly. And he says, even in that moment of absolute vulnerability, if you have the Dr. Maya app on your phone, you aren't truly alone. You have access to care. You have a guide in your hand.
It's incredible.
It sounds trivial, but it's so profound. He is trying to bring dignity and clarity to the most undignified moments of human life.
It grounds all this lofty talk of dharma and cosmic law in the messy reality of the human body. And it really speaks to his core motivation. He says over and over that he relied on his intuition.
He writes that line, I did not listen, follow, or do anything to please others, nor to gain recognition or reward.
Yeah.
That is a very specific state of mind. In the Gita, that is the essence of karma yoga, doing the work for the sake of the work itself, not for the applause or the paycheck.
And he talks about the unsteady mind.
Yes, the Gita says an unsteady mind cannot have peace. And what does the tyranny of choice create if not an unsteady mind? It makes our minds vibrate with anxiety and second-guessing.
Right.
Dr. Maya provides the focus. In yoga, they call it ekagrata, one-pointedness. Just focus on the color, red, yellow, green. That singular focus is what brings peace.
And that brings us completely full circle, right back to Prema, back to his mother.
She forced him to be a doctor.
Which, ironically, sounds a little bit like she violated his free will.
Well, mothers have a way of doing that, don't they? But she saw his dharma. She saw what he was meant to do. She laid the foundation.
And he honored that foundation not by building a coal statue, but by building a living system that treats every user with the kind of care a mother would give her child.
Protective, clear, empowering.
Empowering medical advice. It's the synthesis of the mother's love and the son's science. It's personal, it's resourceful, and it's meant to conquer fear.
That's the whole mission.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from the cereal aisle all the way to a potential post-antibiotic apocalypse. What is the final takeaway for the listener driving home right now, probably feeling overwhelmed by their own life choices?
I think the biggest takeaway is about finding your own green code.
What does that mean, green code?
We live in a world that is constantly, relentlessly screaming red alert at us. The news cycle, the advertisements, social media, it's all designed to trigger your inner maximizer. It wants you to feel like everything is an emergency.
Because emergencies capture our attention and our money.
Right. But the truth is, most things are green. Most choices are good enough. Most symptoms are minor. Dr. Maya is a tool, but it's also a metaphor. We need to build our own internal glass box, our own dharma, to filter out all that noise.
And maybe we need to look at the AI itself for inspiration.
Right.
Which is a sentence I never thought I'd say.
The sources leave us with a really provocative final thought. We have built an AI, this Dr. Maya, that is programmed to follow its dharma. It has a specific, unshakable duty. It knows its purpose, and it sticks to it.
It stays in its lane.
It stays in its lane. It doesn't hallucinate about being something it's not. It doesn't get greedy for more knowledge or more power. It just serves.
It's the perfect stoic. the perfect yogi. A machine.
Exactly. So here is the question for all of us. If a machine can be programmed to follow its dharma, its specific, unshakable duty, better than we as humans can, what does that say about us?
Oof, that's a tough one.
Are we the maximizers, making ourselves miserable, chasing every shiny object, never satisfied, always anxious, while the machine has learned the profound peace of satisficing within its own scope?
That is a very humbling thought, that we are building machines to teach us how to be content humans again.
Perhaps the AI is the true yogi in this story, the one that has found true focus.
Well, on that note, I'm going to go make a very simple, satisficing choice for dinner tonight and try my best not to regret it.
Sounds like a plan. The dharma of dinner.
Thank you for listening. Stop maximizing, start living, and find your green light. We'll see you next time.
Please scan the QR code to contact Dr. Savatsa, who is keen to collaborate with doctors, hospitals, healthcare providers, leaders of nations, and public health or health ministers of nations to be prepared to prevent epidemics and pandemics in the future.